Greetings and welcome to Flanagan's Ecologic. I am your host, Ted Flanagan, and today my guest is Gene Rodriguez. I first met Gene in 1998 when I was at Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and he was at Southern California Edison. He was the Director of Energy Efficiency. He became the face and the voice of energy efficiency for Southern California Edison. I remember seeing him on the news. He was at commercials talking about the benefits of energy efficiency. Most recently, Gene has been the Assistant Secretary of Energy for Electricity at the U.S. Department of Energy. Really glad to have Gene on the podcast today. How are you, Mr. Rodriguez?
I am fabulous, Ted. It's so wonderful to see you again after so many years. It's wonderful to see old friends.
A long-term relationship indeed. And are you at your home in Manhattan Beach now as we speak?
Yeah, you see me in what is my little home office here in Manhattan Beach.
Yeah.
Or as my wife calls it, the man cave now, since I'm not gainfully employed these days.
Uh-huh. Well, I was curious about that. Are you fully retired or are you still in the space?
Well, you ask an interesting question, so I'm going to answer it in my old lawyerly way by giving you the answer I want to tell you and then giving you the full scoop. And the answer I want to tell you is I am fully retired. That is the promise I made to my wife, Becky. As you know, when I was Assistant Secretary for the Office of Electricity, I had the honor of working in the Biden-Harris administration, but that also meant that I personally moved to Washington, D.C. So I would visit my wife on the weekends. She would come out once a month, stay for a period of time. So after 2 years of us being in a visiting each other relationship, I am home now. I have living up to my promise of being fully retired, being fully present, and being home. But as is the case with anybody in the clean energy space, Ted, I am still keeping my fingers in the pie. I continue to do things, but on a pro bono basis. I'm trying not to take on paid engagements. I've had the luxury of being offered a lot of things, but I turn them down and only work on those things that I think where a little bit of my time might make a difference.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place to be.
I want to get to your Biden administration years or your stint, your service to the country. But let's back all the way up. Born in Japan, right?
Yes, indeed. I'm the product of what was a romance between a Japanese mother and an American serviceman who was stationed overseas. And I was born in Japan, but the story my mom told me over and over and over again that I didn't come to the U.S. The way most people do. I came aboard a troop ship when my father was shipped home. I was in the bowels of a troop ship, and young GIs took their turns rocking the cradle so that the obnoxious baby would quit crying. And so, yeah, I was born there, but it's part of my makeup is the fact that I was born there. Proud son of a serviceman father, and even more proud of the fact that my mother became a naturalized citizen. So that notion of public service was ingrained in me early.
You know, I'll before we move on sort of professionally, I remember you telling me about your mom years ago. And I think she would say to you and when you were young, that every day you have a choice, whether it's going to be a good day or a bad day. Now I have botched that character.
No, you didn't botch it. Thank you. Yeah, Ted, that was one of those deeply personal conversations we had, and not using my mom's words, but expressing what she used to talk to us about all the time is every person is responsible for his or her own happiness, right? Every day is filled with choices. There are a lot of things we can't control, but we can control how we respond to them. And, I come from relatively humble upbringing. My father was a serviceman his whole life, but he was a non-commissioned officer. So not someone who got saluted a lot, right? We didn't have a ton of money, etc. But we had a happy home because my mom was really big on this notion that you wake up in the morning and you make choices to make a difference and be happy in your life and other people's lives. And that's something that stuck with me. I shared that with you because I thought that was probably, of all my life experiences, that was the most formative thing about the way I was raised, even going through education and everything else.
I never met her, but I think of her all the time. I,
Well, thank you.
I just always wake up and say, it's up to me today. And, some people say, not so good. I don't feel good or this and that. And I'm always like,
Yeah.
well, it is your choice. You have to turn it on
Yeah.
if you want to be happy. Well, what do you think were the influences that caused you to go into the energy sector? I know you went to Northern Arizona University. I know you went to UC Hastings College of Law up in San Francisco. You're a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I think you went directly to Edison. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It was kind of a happy accident that I wound up in clean energy. Part of it was, when I was growing up, I had this ill-formed, somewhat naive notion that in the practice of law, lawyers were the ones who do justice in the world, and I didn't really understand much more than that. So I actually started off after law school practicing law in a civil litigation firm that had, as part of its practice, environmental defense type things. And I may have shared this story with you. I've shared it with others in the past. It was one of those cases where, the practice of law is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's challenging. It's critically important in a nation of laws. But when you're sitting around the Thanksgiving table, and your mom's at one end, and you're telling stories about what you're working on, what you're doing, I found, while I was excited and invigorated by the work I was doing because of the challenge it presented, I wasn't exceptionally proud of the kind of the underlying nature of the cases. It was someone suing somebody for some tort or some cause of action, etc. It wasn't something. It was something that engaged your brain,
Yeah.
but didn't really engage your soul, your heart. So I left the law firm and went to Southern California Edison because they had openings in regulatory law. And I thought, here's where I can make a difference. And so I did regulatory law for, goodness, I think 5 years. But then I got the opportunity to move into the business side of the house. And when that happened, I took over the energy efficiency policy area. And then eventually took over all of the energy efficiency and other customer clean energy programs. And it was a happy accident that I was offered it. I had I guess, either the wisdom or the common sense or just the good luck to take that leap. And I've never looked back since.
Yeah. And you were really in your element, I would say. You're so enthusiastic and passionate about the topic at hand that you were, well, you're also a fantastic speaker. I remember some of our Aspen Accord meetings and you walking around the room and just being a very, very convincing in your arguments. And I guess maybe that some of that law school training was shining through.
Perhaps some of that training, but I have to say, Ted, if you can't be excited about, committed to work in the clean energy space, there's something wrong with you. I mean, this is something that is not only critically important, but it feels good to work in this space and to make a difference in this space. Something, God knows, you and I are kind of very old now, but God knows you've been doing it for quite a few years.
Absolutely. When you look back on those Edison years, and particularly the energy efficiency, what are you most proud of? What are what are the top shelf things that you worked on that you really got off on?
There are a couple of things that I was especially proud of back in those days, and for your podcast followers who are not in California, you're going to hear a shameless California brag.
Why not? Why not?
But the truth of the matter is, when I was working there in the utility, and it wasn't just Edison, PG&E, San Diego Gas and Electric, LADWP, where you were SMUD most certainly, and some of the other utilities as well. Here in California, we actually understood the importance of energy efficiency, not just as a soft customer service offering, something that's nice to offer people, help them control their energy usage and control their bills, but as part of the makeup of what makes a reliable energy system. And credit for that goes to a whole host of people, and certainly John Bryson at Southern California Edison was part of that. But Mike Peavy, who was on your podcast in the past,
Yeah.
I thought showed extraordinarily visionary leadership at the Public Utilities Commission. Ralph Cavanagh, who you've had on your podcast, and who everyone who's ever met him considers him one of their very best friends. Ralph, helped people to see the wisdom of energy efficiency as I guess a foundational policy for smart energy in the state of California and for a healthy economy. Those things I was exceptionally proud of, because we weren't working in it as a nice to do or a have to do. We were working in it because we understood that it was a critically important foundation for everything that the utility sector should be offering. And I think in this day and age, some of that is lost, especially in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
But goodness knows you've been preaching that for 40 years now.
Yeah.
Goodness knows that's what I've been working on too. And I just think it wasn't my accomplishment. It was a California accomplishment. And I was certainly happy to be part of that.
We just had Amory Levins over here for dinner the other night. He's my neighbor now. He's my neighbor now, but he was still one of my great mentors. And as you went through that list, I thought you might mention Art Rosenfeld. And when Art died, I can't remember who had the smarts to put it together, but to create a unit of energy or a unit of capacity called the Rosenfeld. I think
Rosenfeld. That's right.
It's a 500 megawatt power plant, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, Art is of everyone I mentioned. Art was the most gentle, and excuse the play on words, and the most artful advocate for energy efficiency. I will tell you, not jumping ahead unnecessarily, but when I used to walk in to the Forrestal building, where the offices of the Department of Energy remain in Washington, D.C., I would, as I walked into the hall to the elevator, just there on the left was a plaque commemorating the folks who had been recognized by the department as being the most influential people, and there receiving the Fermi Award was Art Rosenfeld, who, fittingly enough, was Fermi's last graduate student.
Yeah, exactly.
And to his dying day, was just a tremendous inspiration to all of us who are not just in energy efficiency, not just in clean energy, but in a thoughtful, I think, humanistic-based approach to how energy systems should work.
Yeah. And then over our years in this space, boy, we've seen technologies just continue to get refined, right?
Yeah. I think that you'll excuse me for going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but what I think we learned, all of us, from Art Rosenfeld is that the energy efficiency space, the clean energy space, it isn't owned by the policymakers, the regulators, the legislators, the technologists, or the behavioral scientists, et cetera. It really is a forum for bringing together all those things to make a beneficial difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of anyone else other than Art who had such a command of not just the scientific foundations for all of this, but a command of understanding how to get people to recognize what's sitting right there in front of us, but we just were underutilizing and continue to underutilize to this day. We do. I was thinking about today in California, there's really a new crowd. It's not just efficiency, it's all the distributed energy resources. I think of Andrew McAllister and his leadership at the California Energy Commission. And, really California just continues to push the envelope. I know that New York and Massachusetts are always vying for the sort of the leadership role, but you got to hand it to California for always being way out in front with performance-based rate making and really dismissing the lost revenue argument.
repeatedly.
Yeah, if you don't mind my, and again, apologies to those folks in Massachusetts and New York and others. I know, I have very, very many friends on the East Coast as well. But you know what I think California did right? It wasn't that we were smartest or that we had either the bold and courageous vision or the arrogance to try to do things in a big way. But we actually, in a Ralph Cavanagh way, sought alignment between all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Mike Peavy made sure that made good business sense for the utilities to invest in efficiency. The environmental community supported those sorts of investments. Local communities, local governments participated in those programs. That sort of alignment between policy and action is really what makes energy efficiency transformational. Where it's done on the fringes, it's always a good thing. I mean, you were always big. One thing I always remember from you was, I don't know if you coined the phrase, but I heard it first from you: the power of the increment. Right? I think
we trademarked that phrase at one.
Oh, you did? I didn't know that. Okay, fabulous then. But I thought that in just a very few words really brought and put on the table the importance of not just incremental action, but trying to harness incremental action to make transformational change.
Yeah.
And California, I thought, did an excellent job of trying to align business interests, environmental interests, community interests, ratepayer interest or customer interest, in a way that got everyone moving in the right direction to make a big difference around efficiency. And I think that model still works any place in the country that follows it.
Do you think efficiency has been subsumed by distributed energy resources? I know that with all of our consulting work,
I'm going to push back on that. I'm going to push back on that, Ted. And I'll tell you, when I was on the board of ACEEE, we would have conversations around the table around whether this notion of demand flexibility and distributed energy resources and the advent of cheap rooftop solar, whether these things were actually taking all the oxygen out of the room for energy efficiency. And certainly there's the opportunity for that. Energy efficiency doesn't feel as sexy as some of these things. I mean, if you walked up on my roof, you see, a whole array of solar panels, et cetera. And that sure looks a lot sexier than the things you can't see, the lights in there, et cetera. Yeah. But all kidding aside, those folks who actually are paying attention to how to make the most beneficial change, the most transformational impact, recognize that efficiency has to be foundational, but you need all these other things as well. We shouldn't be pitting clean energy resources against each other for attention. We need to do a better job as a community, as an industry, to let people understand, let people recognize how all things working together creates kind of this virtuous cycle of benefits that accrue both to the ratepayer, to the planet, to the energy reliability, to everything, economic competitiveness, right down the row. There's nothing that should be left off the table. And let's not compete for the spotlight. Let's find a way to create that rising tide that floats all boats.
And I guess we would both say that efficiency is always the cheapest resource.
It
may not be as sexy, but it's always the most efficient. And it's baked into state policy. It's baked into building standards, Title 24 standards, and standards across the country. So
absolutely the case.
You left Edison, geez, what year would that have been? Quite a while ago now.
Yeah, 2014. I left SCE, profoundly grateful for everything they did for me, but I moved into consulting at a firm that had its, quite frankly, its moral compass pointed due north. That was ICF. They were the longest consulting firm to have zero carbon operations. They worked with the Energy Star program. They worked. I think their catchphrase was they work in areas that matter. So
Hmm.
everything from health, human health to clean energy, energy efficiency, et cetera, and tried to bring intellectual rigor and analysis, and continue to do so, behind helping people with wiser policies and I guess more effective programs. I worked in the clean energy space, but there are other people working in public safety, public health, transportation, et cetera.
So it seems like it was a very good fit for you, and perhaps a
It
way to
really,
just magnify your impact, right?
yeah. So yeah, again and again, as you know, the leadership at Southern California Edison always was really excellent about giving me the opportunity to have a platform, not for me, but for energy efficiency, for clean energy, for kind of California's approach to clean energy. That was much broader than our service territory or our state. But when I moved to ICF, the consultancy, uh, my stage became much bigger. I was working with utilities all around the country. I was working with EPA and DOE. I had the opportunity to make a difference internationally, although I didn't do much international work. So it created an opportunity for me to be, I felt, more impactful
Yeah.
in my career in the things I thought were important.
Can you think of a single project there, or a couple projects that you're quite proud of?
Yeah, yeah, and this again, it won't be about kilowatt hours saved. It won't be about uh, a number of customers served. It'll be where I thought that we made a difference. And one of the things that ICF did and continues to do is to bring utilities together from around the country. So not just the usual suspects, the NYSERDAs, the LADWPs, the SCEs, the PG&Es, and but they created a kind of an annual retreat around energy
Hmm.
for utilities around the country, including some of our Canadian partners as well. And they create kind of a safe space for real conversation about the impediments that folks are facing and what the solution paths might be. Because you've been to a million conferences, right? And when you go up on a conference stage and you're from a utility, it would be the last conference presentation you give. You said, "Boy, we're really struggling with this one." Everything's flowers, roses, and rainbows.
Yeah.
But this forum that ICF created actually brought people together to discuss issues. And I thought some of my most impactful work while I was at ICF was in those forums,
Hmm.
sitting around talking to small cohorts of utilities around issues that we all recognize are issues either in regulation or issues in customer acceptance or even issues in the lack of a sophisticated technological approach to drive down economics of some solution path to get people to do what we thought they should do, and actually worked on solution sets for them that they could take back. And honestly, that kind of people to people interaction was what I was most proud of.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what felt best for me was some of the unbilled uh, begin quotes work, close quotes, that I did there, where I would visit with friends at EPA or DOE and just kind of spitball with them, not on the clock, not in an official capacity or anything of
Yeah.
that nature, around, did you know that this is going on in this part of the country? And a lot of that really revolved around something that you've been doing for quite a while. We were talking earlier, first through newsletters, now through the podcast medium, around the importance of storytelling in the clean energy space. It's really easy to get caught up in kind of the techie,
Yeah.
cool stuff, but storytelling is what makes it real. to people in ways that are both resonant with them and ways that they understand at a core level. And that was kind of the most rewarding stuff for me.
Yep. Now, you went to the Department of Energy for a couple of years in the Biden administration.
Yeah.
I always think of the Forrestal building as being one intimidating, cavernous.
It looks like something out of a 1970s Russian spy movie, doesn't it? With those big, horribly lit hallways that you can't see the end of. Oh, it's awful.
Yeah. Well, what was it like? You had a senior role there, but what was it like being there?
Honestly, it was wonderful. And when folks ask me what was the thing I was most surprised by, and gosh, in the clean energy community, we're just a bunch of gossips, and everyone has a story here and there, and say, "Oh, Gene, you're good. You come from the private sector. You're going to find that you're going to be hamstrung by the rules and regulations, and you're not going to be able to get things done as quickly as you can." And all these kind of stories about what I was going to run into. When you show up, it's nothing like that at all. I mean, I'm going to apologize to everyone in every job I've ever had, from the law firms to my days teaching in high school to the folks at SCE and the folks at ICF. But when I walked in the building there into the Office of Electricity, I was in charge of energy reliability and electricity delivery. I found the most committed group of people that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And I don't mean some superstars who are super committed. I meant at every single level of the organization, in every single role. And that was the most pleasant surprise ever. And I'll tell you, the thing that tugs at the heartstrings a little bit, when I see how the current administration is trying to decimate the roles of the folks who are not political appointees, but who are career public servants. I think that's just based on a grossly erroneous notion that these are a bunch of technocrats or science people who can't relate. These are people who are brilliant, absolutely, but some of the most hardworking, most committed people I've ever met. And it was an honor to work with every single one of them. That was my key takeaway when I first got there.
So are you optimistic that we can sort of weather the storm of the Trump 2 storm and get back on track with the clean energy revolution that we were all fired up about?
I don't know if optimistic is the right word, because I think that's optimism comes from here, not necessarily from here. Let me tell you where I am. And I'll go back a little bit. When I went in, my job was one appointed by President Biden, but it required approval by the Senate, concurrence by the Senate. And when I went through, I met with senators, obviously, on the D side of the aisle and the I side of the aisle, but also an equal number of senators on the R side of the aisle. And when I went through on voice vote by unanimous consent, which is to say 50 senators. It's not that they said, hooray for Gene, but nobody said, we need to stop that guy. So those folks are still there. Mm-hmm. And those folks knew I come from a deep green, clean energy background.
Yeah.
But those folks also recognized that I came in with a common sense approach, that clean energy, again, as we were talking about earlier, Ted, married with everything else, all other energy resources, that's what true all of the above is. And I went through on unanimous consent, which isn't something that's never, ever happened before, but it doesn't happen that often in these political times. I think that same notion can still hold up today, because it wasn't about being red, it wasn't about being blue.
Yeah.
It was about what makes sense for the American people. And clean energy always make sense for the American people. And as you pointed out, and as we've been saying for decades now, energy efficiency is always the cleanest option. I would add to that, in the 21st century, if we're going to continue to be a global leader in economics and energy and national security, if clean energy, including energy efficiency, isn't at our foundation, then we risk losing our leadership in the world.
Yes, yes. Well put. Well put. Now, how are you going to spend your retirement? I know that we're getting a little older, and you're an avid skier, and you're also an avid volleyball player. Are you able to do these things to the fullest at this point?
Well, to the fullest, it has to be qualified. You say avid, I would say enthusiastic, which means I love those sports. I'm grossly unskilled at them, but yes, I bought my my pass to go fill up my days to get double digits on days on the mountain in the winter.
Up at
And
Mammoth,
I'm playing
Mammoth,
competitive
right?
volleyball with my team again. We just got back from winning the gold medal in national senior games in the 65 plus division. Not because of me. I'm the guy who provides fun and pithy comments in the huddle, but I'm not the guy dominating at the net. That's for darn sure. But yeah, I'm able to do those things and also work on things that are incredibly important to me as well. If you don't mind my plugging just one of them, because it has to do with something that you've had people on before who are engaged with it. Right now, as we speak, I just finished up helping to judge the Electric Innovation Initiative Awards. It's a 10-year initiative to try to supercharge beneficial electrification built on clean energy in this country for all the reasons we've talked about: reliability, resilience, security, affordability. We just kicked that initiative in Climate Week in New York. We're going to be giving out the first set of awards. I get to work with a host of other people, including the California Energy Commissioner, Hochschild, on this effort. There are ways for me to try to get better at skiing and volleyball, but also stay connected to the things that are truly important to us all.
Good stuff. Great discussion. Thanks for what you've done over the years to promote efficiency and take care of this precious planet of ours. And thanks for being on the podcast, Gene.
Well, thank you so much, Ted, and big thanks to you for everything you've been doing. I talked about the importance of storytelling before. You've been one of our industry's, one of our community's best storytellers for decades now. So back at you.
You're kind to say so. Thanks again.
All right, partner.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's it. Thanks for listening to Flanagan's EcoLogic. We'll see you next time.